Good afternoon. This is Debra V. Wilson. It is Tuesday, the 6th of August, 2019, and the time is 1600 hours and 9 minutes. That's BST. I'm confused about GMT and BST. And I'm in Limerick, Ireland. This is the second time I've started this recording for the podcast. Actually, it's not from tears. I'm still smiling. So let me go. Let me just continue. That was Freudian. Let me go back to my work. Let me just start. And I'm 100% sure I'll be doing more podcasts. I didn't know how I would experience Ireland. I've never been to Limerick. This is the first. So I didn't know how I would experience in general coming back to Ireland. The last time I was here was during the Troubles. I don't know Limerick. So, I took the ferry from West Yorkshire. No. I took a package from a coach service that started in West Yorkshire, and it brought me to Limerick. So it was coach, ferry, coach. Okay, so on the coach from Dublin to Limerick was I was sitting and telling the coach driver, he asked me if I was okay. I sat right behind him, and he asked if I was okay because I was starting to get emotional, and I said, it's been 20 years since I've been to Ireland, and so I said, the country has changed so much. I could already tell. First of all, the journey over, there were other black people, other people of color, black and brown people. I ended up at one point sitting with 3 other black women. Yeah, it was amazing. So, in any case, he asked how long had I been away, and I said 20 years, and I was starting to tear up, and he said, well, didn't you know? And I said, no what? He said, we've been waiting for your return. This whole country came to a stop waiting for your return. Her ladyship is back. There's parties all over the country that are playing. I'm surprised you didn't see the banners in the city center welcoming you back, her ladyship back. And I said, oh, okay, I get it. He went on and on and on and on. It was delightfully acerbic and wonderful. It was for the first time in so many years, I got to enjoy a bit of crack with an Irish national, or as an African American from my generation, we would say signifying. It was just wonderful. He asked me the places in which I had lived in Ireland, and it was over several years that I moved back. I've moved back and forth across the Atlantic many times. That's my personality, and I quite enjoy living in different countries. It's amazing, and the goal was always to base myself in the UK. I'm an internationalist. That's how I tend to engage in the world. For me, it's the most intellectually engaging and stimulating if I'm participating in a society, fully participating, but also with the wonderment of constant discovery of a new culture, a new place, language. I love it. So I told him I had lived in Dublin, County Wicklow, Blessington, and County Louth, Dundalk. And he had a quite politically humorous and spot-on joke about Dundalk, which I will not repeat. But it was magnificent because the Irish nationals, so many Irish nationals remind me of African Americans, that we take our pain and in an effort, our history is not to be crushed by it, to distance ourselves with a coping mechanism of humor. And I found it absolutely fascinating. Nevertheless, again, I won't repeat the joke he told about Dundalk. It was spot on, but I won't repeat it. In Limerick, I met a man that, first of all, I got the planning all wrong for the buses. I get really overwhelmed because I don't have a sense of direction. The woman who gave direction at the Limerick train coach station that works for Busaran, just absolutely brilliant and totally tolerant of me just walking around in circles. I have a horrible sense of direction. I don't know why it surprised me that Ireland has rain. I have lived here before, but I didn't know what the heck it was doing here in Limerick. These downpours every second, then sunny, now it's sunny again, and then the skies open up again. And so that was overwhelming me. I just don't do well logistically, and I'm a globe trotter, but it takes me, I over experience having to acclimate to different spaces. I always do. So anyway, I ended up talking to some Irishmen in the train station, and one of them was this tremendous help to me and helped me find a taxi, and it took me some while to decide whether to take the taxi driver. That's another story. I'm going to try to get to them all. But anyway, when he asked me what brought me to Ireland, I said to do research, and I didn't even get a chance to explain to him the research I was doing. He said, I don't know what research you are doing, but what you need to research is the effing weather here in Limerick. Okay, I still have a smile on my face. So that's a little bit about coming to this space and coming in here. The other thing is I went to the wrong place to check in, and the gentleman who was the manager was on lunch, but he sent a young lady, to help check me in. And she said, "You're through Airbnb, right?" And I realized that that's what he had said to me, and I said, "No, I didn't book this through Airbnb. I was at the wrong establishment." Yeah. So I found the right establishment, and I was still too early, so I went. But anyway, I told the person at the right establishment, this young man, the mistake I'd made, and I said I interrupted the young man's lunch, and he had to get someone to. I said I really felt bad, and I apologized, and that was some banter. But he said the funniest thing to me, and I said, "So have I made the same mistake again now twice?" And he said, "No, you're in the right place." And I said, "Because if I have, are you going to call the guards on me, the guard or the police?" And I said, "I've lived in this country, so I know what they look like." And he said, "Well, if the guard had come here for you, I didn't call them." I couldn't stop laughing, and I had to tell him, no, that wasn't the response. And so that was wonderfully refreshing. And then I went to grab a bite to eat at a chain sandwich shop. I don't have anyone sponsoring my podcast, but I guess I don't want to say, because you never know. But anyway, this woman, one of the women that works there, my God, did she just jump into the banter. And she asked me what kind of sandwich I wanted. I told her. And so as I'm eating the sandwich, she said, I know you're going to like it, the sandwich, because she said these are particularly tasty. And I said, well, are you going to take a bite out of my sandwich to try and tell me what it's like? Yeah, actually, I should do that, shouldn't I? She didn't, of course. And then she made a joke about forcing me to eat the sandwich, and then telling me I'd better like it if I knew what was good for me. It was hysterical. We were laughing and screaming and howling with laughter. Yeah, so that's my first few hours in Ireland after a break of 20 years. So, what brings me here? I am consumed with seeking to understand how the United Kingdom does national security. Uh, so, the way I learn is and understand the world is through relational dynamics. So, why am I me? Why do I do the things I do? Why do I construct my existence the way I do? And how is that in relationship, in relation to other people I share space with? So this country, Ireland, is near, but its own nation. And I'm curious to just explore for a wee bit some of the relational dynamics that exist between the two nations and why. It's another reason why I am interested in doing a paper or some research on the relational dynamics and the national security modeling between the United Kingdom and Israel. They're intertwined in so many ways, both literally and allegedly. Many people in this country they're intertwined in ways both literally because they're allied nations and allegedly. And that has an impact in this country. And it impacts the way in which MI5, MI6, SO15 are seen. And that feeds into how people experience the national security model. So it was interesting, the taxi driver that I had is a man from the Sudan who's Muslim. And it was fascinating to hear this person, just one person, talk about the way in which he saw Islam in the space that is Ireland and the way the religiosity, the various ways Islam is experienced here. It was also interesting to hear this gentleman opine on the ways in which he sees Muslims in the space that is the United Kingdom. So it's all that and more that brings me to Ireland to look at this country. And I'm trying to, the task I have is the easiest part of the research is I know how we as civilians, ascertaining how we as civilians experience the national security model is easy. It's how we experience it, right? The other part that's not so easy, that's a challenge for me because I am a private citizen, is the intent of the model from a top-down perspective. So what was the state thinking when the state created this model? Now some of that is available easily through public utterances. Out of the Met, Mr. He's the head of the counterterrorism command. Mr. Basu has been. There's more transparency now coming out of the national security model in the UK than has ever been. So I started coming here in my late 20s. I'm in my early 60s now. This is like someone turned the tap on, relatively speaking. But from my perspective, I want more. Andrew Parker, who is the Director General of MI5, and that's the internal spying mechanism, it's all relative. And so from the context, the historical context, the model is more transparent than it's ever been. So I can hear Mr. Basu, Mr. Parker, and the chief of the Metropolitan Police, which is where SO15 comes out of, Cressida Dick. I can hear those three people opine on what their intent was publicly. Then MI6 is external spying agency, but they play a role in, actually, they literally but also they substance from a substance perspective. They provide a role, but also the way in the internal model, but also the way in which they're constructed and people believe them to be plays a part in how the model is experienced and quote unquote consumed by we, the public. I would argue that GCHQ has a similar positioning. So the way I understand and learn, and the way my research is to do a relational analysis, is when I'm looking at the pieces and I'm still defining those pieces and how they come together in the whole being the national security model. So that's just a wee bit of why I'm here and what I've been experiencing thus far, and I did it with no tears. It's nothing short of amazing. So in any case, I'll post this, and I'm looking forward to continuing to understand what the state's national security model is, what was the state's intent, and how did that work out in reality, and how people experience it. And I know I'm jumping around, this is my stream of consciousness, but this is the place and space in which national security, the analysis of models, and how they work and why they work, and what people, and when they don't work, and what does that mean, you know? Why isn't it working? Why is it working? Yeah, that's my home, that's my space. And so, so I'm looking forward to it, and so I'll post more, and soon. This is Debra V. Wilson, and I'm in Limerick, and from what I've heard from a reliable source, this is a national holiday for the country because I'm back. Thank you very much for listening.